I think it would be difficult to gather up all the quilts out of her house and keep it secret. You would know, wouldn't you, Mom?
Yes, I would.
She would, suspicious.
What were you doing with my quilt?
Yeah,
That's
so
right.
we decided we would tell her.
The girls wanted to have everything that I had made or even worked on. And when we go in the other room, I'll show you the ones that we made with the ladies. And I helped with those. Those weren't the ones that I made entirely. All these others is what I made entirely myself. This one here is one I made for Kathy and Duane. And that's her, I call them the legacy quilts. And it's called the Colorado Starlog Cabin. And it went to Quilt America. I entered it in that, and it was in Quilt America. Of course, this is Karen's quilt, but she commissioned the Farmers Institute group to make that one, and Kathy had us to make this one, and so we all worked on it. This is Harriet, one of the main people, and she's still living, but then all the rest of them are gone. This one I made just recently. I made that, what year? 2006. But I pieced it while we were in Florida, brought it home, put it in my frame, and hand quilted. These are all hand quilted in here. This is another one that the Quaker Ladies did, and we showed it at the Quaker Fair. That's Kathy's. This one here is Karen's, and first big quilt I made for David and Rose, and it was called the Heart and Nine Patch. And so then I made Karen one, and for Larry and Joy was into pigs at that time, so substitute some of the hearts for pigs. And that's all hand done. I like to hand quilt. Takes a lot of time, but I liked it, and I like the way it looks. Of course, I made these pillows. This one I didn't make, but I helped with it. Lois Macy had the top already pieced, and she donated it to us to do for it, and we all hand quilted this one for the Quaker Fair, and Romy had to buy it. This was Karen's. She ran the mini race, and she wanted to, and it came out with the pattern for the T-shirt quilts. So I made her a T-shirt quilts, and if you'll notice, someone did a running shoe there so that I could quilt that in. And then, of course, Steve runs the marathons, and he wanted one then, and I had him to help pick out the fabrics to go around it, and some of them are companion pieces, if you'll notice. There was two up there. And then after he'd picked them out, he got home and got to thinking about it. Said, well, when he was 80 years old, how would he remember how he ran them? So we had to put them in order as he ran it, and then I embroidered the times on there for him. And then it was quite some time after that Larry got the idea. He started riding Harleys, and he got the idea that he wanted a T-shirt quilt. So unlike the running quilts, his shirts had logo on front and back, so it didn't take as many shirts. And then I have a Nancy Martin's perpetual calendar, so I put on each page they've got a quilt block. So this is Larry's quilt block for his birth date, June the 20th. So he's pretty proud of that. And then I made him, of course, he had some sweatshirts, and I didn't want those to go in the quilt because that would just be that much heavier to quilt. And so I made him some pillows out of a couple of his shirts. And I salvaged the labels, and I added the labels to those. This one's another one I call my legacy quilt, made for Lori. And this is the Birds in the Air. It's called Birds in the Air. And of course the 30s. The 30s are very popular over at Karen's shop, and goes back to my age too. I like it too. I like all those fabrics. I can remember a lot of these. I could remember a lot of these patterns in feed sacks. During the war, you couldn't buy a lot of fabric. I was in 4-H, and I had to make my project out of feed sacks, and I could recognize a lot of the patterns now.
If I find out, I'll be right back. Okay.
And this one I made for the girls over there when they were little. It was for Easter, and this was out of a book, and I think I've only made 2 things out of that book because it's very tedious. I did it on the machine, but hand quilted it. But all these little tiny pieces, it takes a lot of time. And this one here I made for Jordan, made his sleeping bag, and Karen had got the baseball fabric in, or not just baseball because it was all sports. And one day Jordan came in the house and he said, "I have paper for you, Grandma." And I love you because, I like you, Grandma, because you made me a sleeping bag. One day Claire was home from school because she didn't feel good. And I got a keepsake quilting catalog in the mail that day, and she was looking at this, and at that time she loved horses. So we got the pattern, and she helped cut out all these horses, and I made her a sleeping bag. It even zips up on the side. This was first baby quilt I made for David's babies, Sarah's, and he's always liked barns, and this shows on his roof. He has his name on the roof of his barn. Mary Grace had a blanket when she was a baby, and she carried it around, and she called it a Dee Dee. And then as she got a little older, she ended up calling it a Dieter. And she'd come over, and Grapple's feet would be cold, and he wanted to borrow her Dieter, and she wouldn't let him have it.
Yeah. That Dieters have to be made with flannel, and they're
And hand-stitched with pearl cotton.
So if it's not done that way, it's not a Dieter.
This is the first Dieter. This was made for Romy, and from then on it just went. Everybody had to have one. We made this one for Larry.
Is that all a neighbor's work?
Yeah, when we were out in Colorado, and Harley signed that too, Larry's granddaughter. That's when she was. What did we figure up, Larry? 4, 1998.
There you are.
That's Kathy's, and that's called Sticks and Stones. I think it's the same as Larry's. This was done in 1997. That's Karen's. And this is Steve's. Steve James. Adriana's was the next. I have lots of favorites, but this one, it had a lot of meaning for me because it was done with her. When I come to make her Dieter, she wanted her grandma's flannel shirts in there. Her grandma, Busick, wore flannel shirts all the time. And this must have been her favorite because it was very thin, and I didn't know whether I was going to be able to put it in there or not. But I backed it with something before I put it together and quilted it. And in the heart here, all the little pieces are, well, most of them are pieces that was her flannel shirts. And then all the way around here, these triangles are from her grandma's favorite shirts, flannel shirts. Then the rest of them, I think you can tell right here, the rest of the blocks came from leftovers from Dieters of aunts and uncles and moms and dads' Dieters.
Dieter is something that even other people outside of our family have gotten. And
Only special people.
special people, yeah.